So hi everybody, my name is Joshua Murray. I'm the Director of Marketing here at Nonotuck, and I want to welcome you all to this Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, and Belonging event. In celebration of Women's History Month, we have two speakers from Nonotuck who were selected by the committee for their just outstanding performance, dedication, long history, and just generally interesting people who I think you're all going to find a lot of enjoyment from. So just before we get started, I want to say, first of all, that this is being recorded. And second of all, I just want to put in a little plug for the Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, and Belonging Committee. I believe our next meeting is April 1st. If you are interested in joining in some form or fashion, please reach out to Nicole or I over email. It's a great committee. We do a lot of great work, and it's very rewarding. So I would encourage all to attend a meeting or reach out to Nicole or I and see how you can help the committee out. So without further ado, I am going to pass it over to our two panelists to introduce themselves, and we will get this event started. So Sue, can I start with you?
Robichaud. I'm the placement specialist for Central Mass. I've worked for Nonotuck for 25 years. And I guess the biggest reason why I'm excited to be part of this panel is that we still have a DEI and B panel, and I wouldn't expect anything less from George. So I'll do my best to make everybody proud. Um, I prefer talking one-to-one, and I like to ask the questions, not answer the questions, but I'll do my best. Right? Is that where I stop, Josh?
Unless you have more to say.
No.
Sarah?
Good afternoon. My name is Serah Muiruri. I am excited to be here. A little nervous, but excited to be here. I'm a clinician assigned to the Auburn program. I do work with Harvard as well and cover wherever I'm needed. So I'm here and excited to be.
All right. Well, thank you to both of you. I'm going to start off with questions that I'd like both of you to answer. So either one of you can jump in and whenever you feel inspired. But first of all, what inspired you to pursue your respective career paths?
So I've kind of known I've wanted to help people since I was 12 years old. I read a book about a girl with cerebral palsy written by her mother, and I thought, oh, I want to be a physical therapist. Well, my science grades didn't support that, so I ended up at Assumption. I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I saw this great poster when I was a senior in high school that said, "Do you have your head in the clouds?" And I was like, "Yeah, I sure do." So, anyways, I applied to Assumption. They had a social and rehabilitation program. I went there and I just kind of fell into this part of the field. And it's been great for me. So that's how I got here. I'll tell you more about how I got to Nonotuck later.
Thank you, Sue. So my story is similar, but a little bit different. Obviously, I grew up in a different country, in a different continent. But right from the early age, I knew I wanted to help. I always found myself helping, doing something for somebody, whether it's in school, if someone was different or was perceived to be different, I was always the girl, the student that always there for them. And as my journey grew to high school, I landed in a Catholic high school which was all girls, not far from where I come from, not far from the village. I grew up in the rural area of Kenya. So the school was run by nuns from Ireland. And obviously they lived in the church grounds in their convent. So I found myself doing some extracurricular activities, and they did have a program where they would cook for children that had disabilities, and I found myself always being around them and feeding them. Not so much because in the village, and especially where I come from, there is a lot of poverty. So we would probably be just milk and porridge, but I was always very, very happy to be there, right, championing for them and being inclusive with all that. Not only that, I also found myself participating in religious activities. There was a program that was called Young Women Association, that even at that age. I found myself helping the villagers that were kind of what we would say here, people that do not have homes and needed the help. So I found myself on a Saturday afternoon, myself and a few more ladies that we had this passion. We would go, and sometimes these people lived in dire poverty. Houses were of mud, and sometimes, it wasn't the best of environments. And I would find myself just sweeping and just watering their grounds and helping them to just live a little bit of a better life. But it's not different because that's the family I grew up in. My parents' house to this day, we do work with people that have a dire need. So we always are inviting, and that's when I came to the United States years later, I found myself drawn to the field, but not so sure what I wanted to do. I landed in nursing homes. I was a CNA for many years, and as I was going through school, I became a CNA and found myself also carrying on with what I had already started. So I was very happy in that environment, and I didn't land into human services until graduate school. And I always thought I was going to the nursing field. My mom was a nurse. She's since retired. My siblings are all nurses. But when I went to grad school, I knew what I wanted to do. I was drawn into the field of rehab counseling because I found it to be very inclusive. I could do counseling, I could do vocational rehab. And I didn't know about this field until I landed at the Glaving Regional Center. What started out as an internship just to get my clinical hours for rehab counseling program at Springfield. And I'm very grateful because I found Glaving through a college professor who was very, very supportive, and he had grown in the Worcester area, but moved to Western Mass. And lo and behold, when I found myself at Glaving, I felt at home. And my first job started at Seven Hills as a vocational rehabilitation counselor. And then through the mass rehab contract and through transitions, I found myself in 2004, I found myself in shared living because in grad school, actually, they had just started talking about shared living. And I thought, wow, what a concept. That was, I believe, in 1996. And I thought, how good could it be for me to support somebody in my home and still, and there was, obviously, it became like an ethical dilemma. Would someone be really paid to take care of somebody? Because where I come from, you just help somebody and pick them up from whatever bottom you are able to pick them up from. So I found it a little bit odd that I would be paid to work with somebody and help them. But then over time, I got accustomed to the system, as we would call it today, and as we know it today. And then finally, I came to Seven Hills, and that's how I became a provider. And I found being a provider totally by accident, because I never planned. I obviously I had it in the back of my mind. And those that know me and know me well, I am always the first one to step up to do something for somebody. So I was approached to help the program because the emergency provider was going to Europe for 3 weeks. And 3 weeks have turned to be 18 years. So that's how I became to be a provider. And eventually I transitioned to Nunatak. Thankfully, I had co-workers that had transitioned to Nunatak, and they kept badging me for years to come join them. And then finally I decided, okay, maybe it's time. And I'm glad I was able to make that decision and be here. So back to you, Josh.
We're glad you're here too. for both of you, what are some challenges that you've faced as women in the workforce, and how have you overcome them?
You want to go first, Sarah? Or you want me to go?
All right, I can continue. That's a loaded question, Josh, because what I may perceive as challenges may not be challenges for someone else. And now that I look back, I have actually grown professionally. There were things that I could have said no to, but just because of the fear that, okay, if I say something, I may lose my job. And being a woman from a different country with an accent, been here 33 years. I don't think I'll shake it off, and I have given up trying. So sometimes when you say something and the comments that come back at you, not so much now, but in my younger, younger period as a professional, I would have said something. But I think it was the pains of growing as a professional, as a woman, and as a woman of care, a woman from a different country. I did pass a lot of opportunities for growth in terms of leadership, and perhaps it's probably the fear again in me, am I good enough? And sometimes you have to work yourself, transform yourself and work and create that spirit of resilience and know what you want and be sure what you want. And sometimes in that confusion, I may have lost a lot of opportunities, but that's okay, because there's always, yesterday is gone. I cannot moan about yesterday. What I have is today, and what I can do today is what I would do today. I have been blessed to have worked with a lot of co-workers that have been a blessing in my life. I'm sure some of them are on this call as well. And that to me helped me grow, overcome the challenges. So many a time I was told, no, Sarah, don't accept that because that's not okay. And then I would say, no, okay, I'll just do it, it's fine. But through that growth, I've also been able to stand up and say, say something. If you don't say something, you don't advocate for yourself. And I believe that's how we are as a culture. Coming from a different culture, also, I have those some things that are deeply ingrained in me. For instance, the interaction with male, interaction with superiors. It's always something that I wrestle with, but I believe I've gotten so much better and growth and grown professionally. So the challenges are mainly person-centered, but again, the spirit of advocacy is always what I'm a firm believer of. Whereas I did it so well for other people, and of course the people that we support, I have learned over time that I also have to advocate for myself. Advocacy doesn't mean rude. Advocacy doesn't mean that you agree or disagree, because we are all professionals and you can agree to disagree. So yeah, I will stop there, Sue. Go ahead.
I've always been very fortunate. I think since I've always worked in human services, there's a lot more females in human services than there are males. So I've never felt any kind of glass ceiling or anything. I think I kind of made my own glass ceiling. I found a position that I loved and a place where I love to work, and I was very happy to stay here. I had no desire to break any glass ceilings. I think when I was younger, maybe I had some situations like Sarah said where I could have set a better limit or advocated better for myself. Like one of the biggest challenges that I've had personally was really, and I think we'll talk about this later, it was kind of balancing everything. Being a program director way back, having a young child, trying to being on call all the time. So, I left that, and then George found me through Peter Trayers, which it was probably the best thing that ever happened to me career-wise. And I have no reason to butter George up because, as most of you know, I'm retiring in 2 months. So there's no one's paying me to say this. But I have found working here able to just kind of, I found what I loved and I've done what I loved. And I guess my biggest challenge is previous jobs, and I changed agencies. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, and can I ask you to sort of expand upon this is the next question anyway, but balancing professional responsibilities with personal well-being? Because you sort of started on that, but can we build off of that
Yeah,
with both of you?
I was thinking about that this morning actually when I was in a yoga class. And I think it changes over time because there are times in our lives, our careers, or where we are with families or whatever, um, when we don't have a whole lot of time for personal well-being, when, our focus has to be on other people, other things. So I kind of see life as a continuum. So there are times when you have more time for yourself and other times when you have absolutely no time for yourselves. And I think um, Sarah can probably relate to that even more so than me. Um, you know, it really wasn't until about 15 years ago when I was in this job. I knew this job. It was pretty stable. My hours were stable. My son was older. That's when I was able to start to focus on my own personal well-being, which for me was starting to exercise and starting to run. And it was emotional as well as physical because I'm the parent of an only child, and and he was my biggest focus. And so as he was starting high school, I knew that that was going to be a huge challenge for me. And how was I going to deal with that? So I got involved in a exercise group. I found a group of women that are all different ages and all different backgrounds, and we've been friends for 15 years. Um, so for me, that's what's really kept me healthy and strong emotionally and physically is finding the right group of people. We call each other our accountability buddies because I'm much more of a group person. People, Sarah, Deb, that we've worked together for a long time. I'm all about relationships, so I'm much less likely to go do something by myself that's challenging because I get bored. I'd rather have somebody to talk to. I have friends that have talked to me for 10 miles, like just about food. Um, Now, I think I got lost. Um, so, Josh, you can redirect me if I fell off the trail.
No, I don't think you were lost at all. I think that was a great answer. Sarah, how about you?
All right. Thank you, Josh. Yeah. So yeah, life is a continuum, as Sue has beautifully stated, because and especially where I'm working. I am a provider, and I find it as a balancing act. And sometimes I may wake up today thinking that my schedule is going to look like a certain way, and lo and behold, I get a call from a program director. This is what we need to do and address immediately. So I have gotten to kind of yes, schedule something, but I also have that spirit of flexibility and adaptability. And I find that keeping that open-minded spirit has helped me to deal with stressful situations. I've been asked so many times, how do you keep so calm? Because everything is, if whatever is bound to happen will happen. And as long as you have a strategy and schedule, I live by my schedule. If something gets lost, I have my day plan, and I'm still one that refuses to go electronic. I'm old school. So I still have my binder with my calendar, and I like to look at it the night before just to plan for the next day. That has helped me because if nothing is scheduled, then it means it's not going to happen. And same thing as, I apply the same in my own personal life as well, because if I don't plan it well, I actually live with my sister, and she has two kids who are, I call them my kids too, Auntie Mommy, continue to be, even though the boy is 13 years old. So I take them as my own, and I happen to be the oldest of 4 siblings. So my sister is the youngest, and I have practically raised her in the US because she joined me here much later. So I feel like a mother figure for the household. So I always have to make sure that everything is settled, everything is up to par, and it takes that mindset of leadership, because if you don't have that skill and you fall apart, whoever is around you is also going to fall apart. So that's how I try to live my life, very scheduled, but also keeping that ounce of adaptability and flexibility, because things are going to be done. And of course, as a professional, as a mother figure, as a provider, there's a lot that's put in my plate. My parents are also getting older, and even though they are thousands of miles away, I feel that responsibility. So what happens is now I have to schedule a week or 2 weeks at a time throughout the year, and just go see my dad, my mom, who my dad is battling early dementia. So I feel the need to be there, but if it's not scheduled, then it's not going to happen. So I also believe there's always a time for everything. Yes, sometimes being the caregiver, you have to schedule time for self-care, because if you don't, then you fall apart. I've learned so much. I've read a lot about burnout, and burnout may come out as different ways: irritability, agitation, just another email. Do I have to respond to that? So I have to catch myself and avoid that. I'm never really reactive, but sometimes the normal demands of life can get you to that point. And I think just creating that self-awareness of where you are at every given moment has helped me get grounded. And I also am very grateful for George and Nanatak, because I got introduced to Kriparu, which was sponsored by Nanatak. And actually, I think Sue went with me at that time. And that's when I fully realized and embraced the importance of self-care, which, yes, we talk about self-care, but when you really actually practice it, it's really refreshing and very, very transformative. So that's how I try to balance it out, because I have to put my needs first, even though that's obviously a work in progress. I'm not there yet, but I try as many times as I can to be able to kind of keep myself in check, to be able to radiate and give what I need to give to the people that I need to give to, and obviously to the people that we support.
Great, thank you. I guess we'll go every other person. So Serah, again, back to you. What advice would you give to women who are entering the workforce?
Oh, that's a loaded question. What advice would I give to people that are women that are getting to the workforce? First and foremost, the choices you make are going to follow you for many years beyond. And one mistake that you can make can ruin the rest of your life in the career. So it's very important to know where you want to be. And it's okay, you don't have to know it right away. But I think having those conversations with yourself: where do I want to be? Where do I see myself in the next 5 years? I'm a firm believer of goals, because without goals in every area, we know we talk about goals for the people we support in the ISP process. But I was lucky enough early on to understand and embrace the importance of keeping goals. And they don't have necessarily to be just goals. You have to have a timeline on that, because if they're not SMART goals, then they're not goals, and you're not going to be able to get anywhere. There are many a time that we talk about, okay, that I'm going to go back to school, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do the other, and it's just talk. And then I came to a point in my life where I said, okay, I always put this on paper. Am I ever going to be able to really execute it? And if I have to execute it, how do I go about it? So it kicks back to knowing what you want, who you are, number one, what you want, and where you want to be in the next, say, 3 years, in the next 5 years. And not just, yes, we are talking professionally, but it's also applicable in your own personal lives. Also, make sure there is the culture that you work in is very, very important. It's going to influence who you are. And sometimes you have to know where to come in and where to just stay back. And especially if, and I'm not saying that we work in toxic environments, but I have been in toxic environments, obviously in a different agency. So you have to kind of know when to step back and when to altogether leave, because if you have well-defined values that you really, really, truly believe in, you will know whether your values match with where you are. And when your values match with where you work and what you do, it's no longer a job; it's a passion for you. And every time you wake up, you're not gonna have butterflies in the stomach thinking, it's gonna be another day. I'm blessed to work at Nanotech because every day I wake up, I'm enthusiastic about coming to work. So if you can find that early on in life, it can save you a lot of time in terms of that career path. And again, there is growth. And sometimes you may look at the immediate, where you are in the immediate environment and think, well, I'm never going to get forward. I'll never get, to a different position. And that's where you kind of also can be creative and work with your superiors and whoever is around you. And if they're willing enough and they care enough and they invest enough, I feel like if you invest enough in the company that you work for and they are well invested in you, it's a win-win situation, because growth may not be now, but as long as you have that aspiration and passions, there are so many ways that you can nurture those passions as well.
It's great. Thank you. Sue, how about you?
I have a little bit of a different spin on things because I think flexibility and openness to whatever might come your way is good to have too. And when Serah was talking, everything she says makes sense, but it reminded me, a few months ago, I went to a mentorship type thing at the college I graduated from. They wanted people in the field to go and talk to students that were getting ready to graduate or maybe start internships. So it was so refreshing. I hadn't been around 20-year-olds in a really long time. But this one girl came to our table and she knew exactly what she wanted to do. She knew where she wanted to work, what shift she wanted to work, what town she wanted to work in, the agency she wanted to work in. And she left the table and we looked at each other and we were like, oh, that poor girl. I mean, right down to the shift. I was like, wow. I think that was a little too narrow. I think you need to be open to whatever comes your way. And like Serah said, if you find yourself in a toxic environment or something that's not working for you, you have to be prepared to leave or willing to leave, which is a big risk to leave something that you know. And I guess that's kind of brings me back to how I got to Nonotuck and why I'm so happy here. So I had worked for the old agency I worked for like 9 years, but I was a program director, and everything stopped with me. On call, and everybody, a lot of people on this call have been or are in that position, and it's a really hard position. And I wouldn't say it was toxic. It was just really, it was all consuming. And I had a child who was 3, and I had the opportunity to be able to leave my job. It was a little bit of a risk, but I got my husband on board with me, and I said, I'm just going to stay home for a little while. Well, that didn't last very long. It lasted maybe 6 months, and the old area director of Worcester DDS called me because back then we just had landlines, so everybody had your phone number. So Peter Traers called me and told me about this new agency that was just coming into Worcester, and they needed a program director. And I was like, well, I won't be your program director. But I talked to George, and it was a great conversation, and I started here. And I'm sure George remembers this. I think I was traumatized in the beginning because I would talk a lot about my old job. And then finally, I kind of embraced my new job and my new agency, and it's not so new anymore. So I would tell people just to, I guess, be open to possibilities and be willing to make some hard choices if you need to. And Josh, I think I answered the next question sort of, as I'll just continue. What a defining moment in my career that shaped my leadership or work style. Back in 1983, I started working for an agency that doesn't exist anymore. They were called Cooperative for Human Services, and they were in Worcester and Fitchburg. And they did something they called back then specialized home care, which was actually the precursor to shared living. And a lot of the people we supported, like my caseload was North Central Massachusetts. It was Barre, it was New Braintree, it was Gilbertville. And there were farmers who supported people that they had taken from Worcester State Hospital way back in the 80s. So I started doing that, and I was as green as they come. I think I was 23 years old. I had worked some residential work, but I got my master's without having any experience, which it was good because I got it done, but it was bad because, I had no work experience. So I ended up working with a woman who really became my very first mentor. And she taught me a lot. And one of the things she taught me to do, I thought of this when Serah was talking, is I keep a to-do list. I use a pad of paper. I write down everything I have to do. And then at the end of the day, I tear it off and I rewrite the things that I didn't get to. And I also, like Serah, still use an appointment book, which is beside me all the time because I keep my whole life in this book. And I lost one once a long time ago, and that was a nightmare. So she helped me. She kind of shaped the work style, communication, organization. And I know everybody has a different way of organizing themselves, but and sometimes you see someone brand new and they're not writing anything down. And maybe it's because they can remember everything, or maybe it's because the stuff they need to do is just not going to get done. Because if I don't write it down, Colleen Smith, who used to work with us, she was talking to me in the office, and then she came back a couple of days later and said, "Did you do blah, blah, blah?" And I was like, "No." And she had asked me, I said, "Well, was I looking at you when you asked me? Did I write it down?" And I wasn't looking at her, and I didn't write it down. So it never got done. So that was a lesson to me that I just have to write. And it's not just because of my age. My whole life, I've written stuff down. And then, of course, what really has shaped the last 25 years of my life was that phone call I had with George when I was standing in my kitchen. So that's it for me.
Thank you, Sue. Serah, same question, which was, can you define a moment of your career that shaped your leadership or work style?
I've had many of those moments, George, but I think the most defining moment for me was when I became a clinician. And that point, I had worked as a clinician before, but the type of clinical work that we do at Nonotuck is different from what I had done before. And just the day I realized that I don't have to go to do a home visit as a care manager. I had done case management for many, many, many years. And those that I worked with know that I could be at someone's home that was my highlight of the day. And I never minded to do home visits, even 5, 6 o'clock in the evening, because that's when you find people in their own natural homes. And I mean, natural time around that time. And I was blessed to work with families that were very welcoming. And I realized that, oh, that's going to be a little bit different now. And I think even to this day, I kind of, when I see something happening with a care manager and they're struggling in a certain area, I have no problem calling them and saying, hey, if I were you, I would do it so differently because this is how it goes. And they're always very, very appreciative. But then I realized that, okay, this is a change, this is a switch, but yet I can still do it. So I had a hard time transitioning from that role to this one. And perhaps that's why I'd probably held on for 10 plus years in that role. I was happy that I was still able to do things that I wanted to do, like the other things that I always wanted to do professionally. But I think case management was my home. But then I got that defining moment because I could kind of, it was okay. I had to realize that it's okay to transition, but it's also, you will have so many other opportunities to come back to what you love to do. And sometimes you have to find ways to derive that joy because, it's a personal choice. And again, it's also a career path. You don't want to also get stagnated in a thing that you can actually do better and also share your talents with others. So that was I think it was one of the most defining moments for me.
I'm going to continue on with you. Just sort of piggybacking off of what you said. You mentioned case management and being a clinician here at Nonotuck. And so my question is, how has your experience as a shared living provider influenced your approach to your job as a clinician here?
Being a provider has so many uh, accolades that are so different. I tell people when you go to a home visit and you're visiting a shared living provider, of course, with the person they support, you're only there one day. 1 day a month, and maybe twice a month, depending on what's going on. But being a provider is very, very different. You're responsible for somebody 24 hours. And if you don't have, your heart has to be in the right place. And it has always reaffirmed why I'm in this field. I think being a provider keeps things in perspective for me because it's a real microcosm of what I do as a clinician and what I have done as a care manager as well. But I think also being a care provider has also helped me to understand and have that empathy for the people that do the work that I do when I'm working with them, and sometimes bringing that into perspective because it could be a different month, it could be a very difficult month, and I know that things still need to be done. That paperwork needs to be done because of the regulatory components also. So it kind of gives me that humility, gives me that perspective of, okay, I can understand. However, my approach is going to be very different in how I ask for that document because I also know the struggles that people go through. So again, being a provider it's like a reference point that I keep coming back to. And I also, it has helped me. Being a clinician, being a previous care manager has also helped me shape my role as a caregiver. So I guess it goes both ways. They feed off, both roles feed off of each other. And I also obviously I'm able to advocate more for the person that I so dearly love. And I don't know what I would do without Jen, but again, I know it will not be forever. And I sometimes, even as a provider, it goes back to that moment. And I also don't want to think about it because I don't want to foresee it because she has just become a part of my family and part of my life also. So Anyway, what I also have learned is that what I have for experience, I have also helped her care managers that come into my home because I still have to have a case manager. I still have a clinician that comes to my house. Coincidentally, is a clinician that I worked with in previous life and probably supported through it all because, it was a journey for her. I trained her. Now she's my clinician and holds up a very high position in that agency. So I guess for me, it comes full circle. So whatever you do, sometimes you may not see it in the future as something that may come back to you, but it does. Life has a way to get back to where it all started. So for me, it becomes a well-rounded approach, and I couldn't be happier because I know that the skills I've gained as a clinician, I'll be able to support not only the person that I live with, but others that I may come my way. And beyond that, I know a lot of people that have close friends that are also providers. I never hesitate to share my wisdom or my experiences, whatever you want to call it, because at the end of the day, everybody's trying to do the best they can. And I always have to keep that in mind, depending on the circumstances. So it has given me a perspective whereby I have to be empathetic and at the same time make sure that there's a balance, because you still have to make sure that everything else that is required of you is also accomplished. If that answers the question, Josh.
It does. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Sue, part of your job is making successful shared living arrangements. What are the key elements of a successful shared living arrangement?
Well, obviously the relationships that people build with each other. So as a as a person going in and screening people, sometimes you're looking for things that you can't even really describe. It's a feeling that you get, it's a sense that you have, how that person is going to be. There are times that you walk in and I immediately feel really good about the person. You just know deep down that they're going to be a good provider for somebody. Sometimes I walk in and I know they're going to be a good provider for a specific person. Um, but getting back to what Sarah was saying about the home visits and sitting in the person's house and needing to be there with your heart, finding the right person is just the beginning. I think the care managers and the APDs and the PDs that support them have so much to do with making a successful shared living arrangement go on. Because people need a lot of support. The people we support need a lot of support. The providers that support them need a lot of support and a lot of understanding. And I think the most successful situations, the care managers understand that it's not always easy for the provider. Like, providers are people too. And we put a lot of responsibilities and expectations on our providers, which they need to do. They need to do the right thing. We try to make sure that they know what they're getting into. Again, so that's where the transition is so important to make a successful arrangement. And you never want to force a match. And that's the other thing I've learned over the years, is that we move a little slowly. I, in particular, kind of move a little slowly because I like to mull things over in my head. Now, we move fast when we have to move fast. Obviously, if there's an emergency and we've all been involved in it, there's 3 or 4 of us working the phone. It's kind of like, you see, I just was watching on TV a totally different show, but everybody's working the phones trying to find a place for the person to go that night because we have to do that. That's a little different. That takes a different skill. You're looking for different things because you're not hoping that it's going to last for 5 or 10 years. When you want something to last for a long time, you really want to put a lot of thought into the whole team. But it comes down to relationships and communication. Yeah. I have to run around the corner and let my dog in while Sarah answers her next
Um, Sarah, you have experience in both institutional and community-based services. What are the biggest shifts that you've observed in those fields over the years?
Sure. The shift. I want to say that every model of service works for a certain group of people. But I have to say, and I'm a firm believer that community-based programs work best for people because of that experiential growth. I've watched people in group residences. I was running a group residence through a different agency. I want to say about 1997, 98. And it was different. As much as I wanted to do a good job, sometimes the staff that you work with you, the investment is a little bit different. Sometimes you find yourself on a Saturday, the whole Saturday I walk in and do my first shift from 7 to 3. But many a time I found myself working probably the whole weekend because the investment of the people that work around, and I'm not saying that that's the case every time, each time, but I find that shared living providers and the model is a little bit different. There's a level of investment that is inexplicable. It's inexplainable. And when the match is right, as Sue was saying, it's no longer it doesn't feel like work. It feels like it's just a normal way of life because that could be, it's just another person, a family member in the home. But when you work in the community as a residential program, that many a time there are things that I would have wanted to do with the people that I worked with, but obviously the regulations are different. Like I cannot take someone out for a coffee in my house. It felt like there was a level of conflict of interest. And I felt like, okay, why not? But these are relationships and different relationships. I actually worked for an agency that discouraged giving someone a hug. And again, those people that know me well, I am a huggy person. So telling me that I have to say no to a hug, if someone I haven't seen in a while, I walk in a door and they enjoyed working with me as much as I loved working with them. And do I have to look around who is around so I can give this person a hug? It never really settled well with me. So I felt like there was a little bit of more limitations in those type of programs than there are in shared living. And that's why I championed for shared living each time, anytime. And again, I know there are models that really, those can be models that work for a certain population and certain people thrive. I've seen people thrive in those programs. But for the most part, for me, the residential programs, I have reservations. And I always believe that even for the most challenging person, I always try to seek the strengths in that person, because even in the lowest, in the most vulnerable place people can be, there's always a reason behind. And if you try to go beyond that, there will be a little glimpse of light. I'm gonna put it in perspective for you, Josh, because when I became a provider, the lady I support had been in 7 homes. She was in crisis. She came to me after having moved 7 times, and I believe she had been in a long-term placement or home for 7 years, and that fell apart. Then from there, it was a spiral. And I met her when she was in crisis, and I kept saying there must be a reason why this is happening. And when she came to me, the first 3 months were tough. And those that know the background, and I know some of them are on this call, there was many times that I would be asked, why are you sticking on? Why are you holding on? I just felt like this person needs certain things that she has never received in her life. She was still grieving the loss of her parents, and she's the last of 6 siblings. So she, being the last, she had lost her mom at a very tender underage, and therefore she was grieving and nobody was looking at that whole piece. And later on, she settled, and as we moved on, today she's a complete different person. We joke around it. Actually, she tells me, the old Jen will never come back. So we joke around that. We talk about, okay, is it old Jen coming back? No, sir, I promise you that's done. What old Jen are you talking about? So again, it's just having that ability and flexibility to do things with people. I only imagine had I probably, and I'm not saying I've done 100% things right by her, because I'm sure there could have been somebody else in place. Things happen for a reason. But I always wonder what would have happened if that person ended up in a group residence, because that was the next step. And luckily, the woman that was an area director at the time at the agency that I worked for just asked me, "Can you just help me out? Because I know you have a little bit of free time." I said, "Oh, sure, why not?" And then 3 weeks, 18 years later. So it's always about the match. And that's why I'm a firm believer of shared living and ICSU relations. It's about relationships. And again, when you have that bond and you share that relationship with all the values that we talk about here at Nanotech, it's a win-win situation for both I and the person I support.
Great, thank you. Sue, as you mentioned, you're coming up on retirement soon, and you've been with us for quite a long time. So, in all of your years with Nonotuck, what achievements are you the most proud of?
Actually, exactly what Serah just described, because we have similar situations to that where, someone's been struggling, they get referred to us with a huge packet of like all their problems, all their issues. And of course I can't remember specifics, but there's somebody, I think it might be supported out of Darlene's program. Michelle Call, if you're still listening, the young man, we got his referral packet, and I think we all said, "Oh my God, we can't support this kid." And
yes. Serah was with him, us too. Yep.
yeah, and he's just doing wonderfully. And then there's another situation that I remember thinking, "Oh, what are we going to do?" And then there's another situation with Deb Schneer. I remember hours and hours in the Faith Ave office making phone calls. And we tried 2 or 3 different providers. This guy was coming from home. He was in Kerry's program too. And I talked to you about this, Josh, a Hail Mary. I was like, okay, one last phone call I can make. And I think he's been there 3 or 4 years. So it's that when you go like, wow, I can't believe we pulled it off, I guess. And then, so that's what makes me happy, is that I keep lists. I keep lists of everything. I'm not an Excel person. I'm a Word person. So I was just glancing at it. I have a list of all the current providers. So I look over that, it goes on for several pages, and they're all people that I helped find each other. So, of course, it's not all about me, because once, like I said before, once we do the transition, then then the hard work really starts. That's when everybody else has to really do the hard work. And I totally lost my train of thought. Oh, and hanging in there, like Serah said, so many situations 2 or 3 months in, we really think it's not going to work. And then within 4 or 5 or 6 months, things smooth out and people take a deep breath and people just start to really do well.
Great,
And
thank you.
so you never say no. You say maybe or let's see, right?
Right.
Because with that gentleman you were talking about, you're like, let's look, let's go see him first. So talk about that, how you say, you don't just say no right off the bat, because I think that's important.
I forgot that part, Michelle. Right. I don't think anybody. Yeah, I said we just got to see him. That's right. Serah was in on that too.
Yeah, and you don't say no. You say what we got to find the right person.
Yeah.
When
That's the
you're
other great thing about Nonotuck, and I'm glad that Michelle's talking, because we're not an island. Nobody's doing this alone. I mean, our team approach that we use for intakes, I think, is the best way to go about things. You know, it's me and Serah and Michelle and whoever the nurse is and whoever the clinician is, and we're all kind of putting our heads together. And then with the program director, and you know, I know there's been a lot of talk about how we're going to kind of how you're going to structure things. And it's that you can't lose the teamwork, because no one person makes it work. We all make it work together.
That's great. Thanks, Sue. Um, Serah, I don't think we've mentioned this to this point, which is probably my fault, but you are a twice published author. Um, so my question is, how does your writing complement your work at Nonotuck?
Thank you, Josh. I love to write. I love to write. And most of what is coming out, getting published now, is things that I've done years back. However, I write on topics that are very dear to me. And the first book was actually a total accident. I was involved in a program, and they invited a few of us to be co-authors, write your story, and then they published the book. And that's when I really thought, I always knew that I was going to write, but sometimes you don't know how to go about publishing. You don't know what it takes and the cost. There's a lot that goes into publishing. But I love self-development. I always enroll into little programs here and there that are going to, obviously, that's part of my self-care. I like to learn. I like to actually read. I'm a good reader, even though I don't get as much time as I would have wanted to, because of the numerous responsibilities I have right now. But I have written about empowerment. I have written about resilience, because even no matter where you are, that's my newest book, and I put in a lot of work in it, and I tweaked it for maybe even years. And I wanted to deliver something that would also be practical for people, because everybody we all have a room to grow. And if you're not growing constantly, it means you're not, you're not reaching your full potential. So the resilience and how to get there, because yes, we talk about, I want to grind on, I want to make sure that I do it, but it's the how and the bridge between wanting and meeting your goal and realizing that dream is that bridge. And I felt like instilling that resilience in people, helping them have that practical tool that they can use to get to where they need to be. Of course, resilience is not a destination. It's something that you acquire over time. And I obviously, like everybody else, I have had a fair share of challenges in my life. And there were moments where I felt like, oh my goodness, I cannot even go again. And I did go through a traumatic experience where I was still had Jen. And I think that was a defining moment in terms of my own personal life. And once you have a passion and a desire to thrive, no matter what is set in front of you, you'll be able to overcome. And I got asked so many times, how did you get over it? You really don't get over it, because if you get over it, it means that you forget where that moment, and then you don't grow out of it. So, and I like to spin things because I'm a firm believer of gratitude. I'm a firm believer of positivity, because the energy that you create and you bring forth can be really damaging, or it can also be helpful for people. So that's what I like to write about: resilience, empowerment, growth. And Josh, I just got my third book published as of yesterday. I got a call. It's a dear topic to my heart, which is interpersonal relationships. And I wrote that out of that experience, but then I also wanted to really teach people that there are ways that you can get through it and be able to overcome some of those challenges. So I'm not going to spill the beans, but there's a lot of how do you break the chains of bondage or whatever bondage it is. And mine was interpersonal relationships and domestic violence and all that. So I'm very, very happy. I'll continue writing. I'm a firm believer of our, a holistic point of well-being. So mental health is a dear topic in my heart, and that will be the next book that I really focus on. I've already submitted the manuscript. I'm just waiting and editing and all that, which takes forever. But those are the topics that I write because I believe those tools have also shaped me and helped me in my career to help people as they journey through whatever it is, shared living. All the tools are really applicable to what we do in the here and now. At Non-Attack, we are believers of wellness. So what better way to kind of look at the whole body, the mind, body, and spirit. And that's actually what drew me into my current program. I will be hopefully in the next year, I'll have my doctorate in behavioral health. And I looked at that program because of all the things that I've done in my life in the career. And I think it fits very well because it's more focused, more focused, the curriculum is more focused on integration of healthcare, which is so lacking in what we do. And that's why I find that I was drawn to that out of frustration, because sometimes you speak to the PCP about certain issues for someone that you're working with, and the psychiatrist has no awareness of that has happened. And it's a lot of things. When we talk about treatment plans, we look at the data, we look at everything else of someone's life. Are they sleeping well? So it has helped me to ask the right questions, and with the hope that it can also help someone else, and it can help the person and whoever is working with them as a team to look at things from a holistic point than just that one issue. It's behavior, it's behavior, it's behavior. But I always come to behavior is communication. What is this person telling us? And also in line with that, I probably will come out with a trauma-informed certification of some sort, because most of the issues that we experience today stem from trauma. And if you understand trauma, you'll be able to understand most of the things that, or you have at least an appreciation of what you see that is sometimes deemed as, oh, it's the worst of behaviors. And I always laugh, because even when I came to Non-Attack, I looked at my caseload, and Deb was my supervisor, and said, yeah, Sarah, you can handle that. You can handle so-and-so because you have that background. And I got drawn, and we did the best we could on so many circumstances. And I still feel like you always have to remember that people are here for a reason. And it also gives me this perspective that they are vulnerable, I'm vulnerable, but it is through our vulnerabilities that we grow together. So that's all.
That's great. Thank you. And before this event is over, which we're wrapping up very soon, but I'll share links to articles in the chat for both of our panelists, so you can find more information on both of them. So this is my last question for Sue, appropriately, as she's approaching retirement. What advice would you give to those who are going to continue your work here at Non-Attack?
I think to be open-minded, to lead with your heart, not to get all caught up in the paperwork. Don't forget what's really important, because there's so many, we're pulled in so many directions, especially more at the program level, but don't forget what's really important. Don't, when you're going to a house to talk about someone, it's not about if there's a fire extinguisher in the house. It's about, what do people like to do? It's about asking questions that help draw out the things that people need to know about each other. I'm involved in a lot of introductions, meet and greets. I spent a lot of yesterday bringing families, sisters to meet prospective providers. And I'm not quite a matchmaker, but I have to, facilitate conversation so that people that might not be as comfortable talking as Serah and I are can kind of express themselves. And don't forget why we're here, I guess. And that we're all in this together.
Sue, I cannot resist but say, an old friend of mine kept saying to me so many years back, keep the main thing the main thing. And as you were speaking, that thought came to my mind. We have got to keep the main thing the main thing, and the main thing is the people that we support and the environments that they're in. So yeah.
Well, all right. I think that was great, and thank you to both of you. That really, um, I don't know. I'm kind of speechless. You guys were really great, and I learned a lot, and I hope everybody here learned a lot. Um, we're a little bit over time, but it was well worth it. So I just wanted to thank the panelists, and I want to thank everybody for showing up and engaging. And I'm gonna put those articles in the chat, but otherwise, thank you all again, and we'll see you at the next event. So thanks a lot.